looked at we looked at chapter 6, and we saw a terrible, absolutely terrible happening, and we're going to see some more of it. And it is a man. I studied this and I read through this, and then I got out my NIV and I read it again, hoping for better, easier, if you will, upon my mind, and it's just as bad. The New International Translation is not a word for word. It's a version designed to, as it impacts the thought of the sentence, and I thought, well, man, maybe it'll be easier to read. But at any rate, let's look at chapter 7. This is not good. It breaks down into this, okay? Verses 1 through 9 is the calamity that's announced upon Jerusalem, Judah, and Israel. All right, there is a social disruption. First thing that happens is social disorder. You might be seeing some signs of something like that. Then you have a military dismay in verses 14 through 18. The military cannot respond, does not know what or how to respond, and so I've entitled it Dismay. They just, they don't know what to do, all right? And then verses 19 through 22 is economic distress. Distress. The good thing about economic distress is that the death of material security brings a resurrection of faith. It always does. Dr. Richard Baggett said that during the Depression, he grew up in Mississippi, Tupelo, Mississippi. And he said during the years of the Depression before World War II, he said every church building in every town in Mississippi was filled to capacity. And he said some were even outside leaning on the windowsills. They didn't, obviously no air conditioning, and they raised the windows on the church buildings, and people would lean in on the windowsills to hear the messages that were being, whatever it was, whatever church building it was. He said they were filled to capacity. So the point is, when there is a death of material security, and we know in our economy today that money is a buffer. It's a buffer around us. And our neighborhoods demonstrate that, and it's buffer. We're buffered by financial security around us, all right? And so when that buffer is gone, there's economic distress. And usually following economic distress, there comes a rebirth of faith. Verses 23 through 27 is a political disorder. You have the false prophets. You have the ones saying they're not peace when there is no peace. Jeremiah talks about that. You have no compromise. They cannot make treaties with the onrushing army of Babylon. They can't do it. There's no way they can go out and reach some kind of settlement. And the false prophets are proved to be wrong again, and the kings and the princesses are dumbfounded because the thing is so out of hand that the top administration cannot deal with it. All right? So that's what chapter 7 is about. That's what it's about. So why is chapter 7 happening? Well, because of the national sin. Because that God has had enough. Enough. I had some ladies, 3 of them come a year or so ago when we were going through this Bible survey thing we did, and they asked me a question one evening. what about God's chosen people? And I answered that biblically, and they never came back. And I said I answered it biblically, and I did. Because people that think there's a special place for Israel have never read the book of Ezekiel. You know, they just haven't. That God can bring judgment and wipe out the nation of Israel because of sin. Now let's look at it together. All right, moreover, all right, we're continuing. This is a moreover. Now, verse 14 of chapter 6. Now let's get the thought here. This is punishment of a nation because the whole population at some level or another are involved. Okay? At some level or another, it's involved. Like World War II involved so much of the American population. The last wars, you know, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and all that, you know, the Marines are at war in America's at the mall, shopping and carrying on. But in World War II, you know, they've even made movies about Rosie the Riveter, you know. Rosie was making B-17s and B-29s that dropped the bombs on Germany. In other words, the whole nation was involved. And the women were at work building war materials. So the whole nation is involved. All right? So what you have here is the whole nation is involved. But the whole nation is involved here in sin. Okay? They're swimming in it. All of them are involved in it at different levels. Now look at it. So he says, and I will stretch out my hand upon them and make the land desolate and waste from the wilderness toward Diblah throughout all their habitations, and they shall know that I am Jehovah. So when they see all of this waste and all this desolation and all this destruction, they're going to know it is the hand of God causing this. All right, remember Amos chapter 8? You don't like to hear the word of God? All right, I'm going to take it out of the land. You're not going to hear it. It's going to be like a famine. No food, but this time, no Bible instruction. And you know what I mean? Bible study, don't have to worry about griping because you have to go to Sunday night service. Don't have to whine and gripe because you have to go to Wednesday night Bible class during the week. It's all gone. It's all gone. And here's what happens when it's all gone. Moreover, the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, And thou, son of man, thus saith the Lord Jehovah unto the land of Israel. So he's going to get both of the little nations. He's going to get Israel, and he's going to get Judea, all of it. And he says, an end. All right? An end. Israel, the northern kingdom, gone forever. An end. The end has come upon the four corners of the land. Now, you know that the earth is not square. You know that. And we started the square county lines, the surveyor did, under William Penn in the state that is known as Pennsylvania. You notice those colonies, the 13 colonies, the only one of them that looks like a rectangle is the state of Pennsylvania, because there was a surveyor on the staff of William Penn, and he's the one that started the box arrangement, the 640-acre square, you know, the 160-acre quarter section. He's the daddy of all of that. So everything's square. Nature, there's nothing square, nothing. You know, that's the way we used to find marijuana food plants, and if any of you is growing it, let me tell you, don't make a square plot. But, you know, don't make a square plot, because when you fly over and look down from an airplane from 5,000 feet, what do you see? You see a square, and it doesn't fit in nature. And when you lead them off in handcuffs, says, well, how did you find it? Yeah, how did we find it? Because it didn't fit in nature. You see, it didn't fit. All right, four corners of the earth or the land is an expression that means what? Complete. The Bible has idioms in it, and we get tangled up in them, just like Acts 20 and verse 7. Church came together on the first day of the week to break bread, and everybody says that's this right here, and everybody's wrong. The church came together for their love feast, okay? They came together to break bread, which was the idiom for coming together for a meal. And because you read later on where they had the Lord's Supper, and Paul tasted the bread, etc., etc. So this is an idiom, just like Acts, a metaphor, just like Acts 20 in verse 7, and that metaphor's led to the practice of running by the church building, throwing a cracker in your mouth, wash it down with grape juice, and then get on with whatever is important to you. And that's what that metaphor's done, because it's misunderstood as a metaphor. Now, this is a metaphor. 4 corners of the land. Well, if you look at Palestine, it's not square, not corners anywhere. All right? There's only one place in America where 4 corners come together. Where's that? Yeah, they've got that fenced off now because there's so much trash, so much tourist stuff that people that tear up monuments, that just like the big statue up here going in Amarillo that used to be, you know, they moved it, and now you can't get to it. It's all defaced and all that kind of stuff. You know, the giant statue up there. Well, 4 corners is just parts of the figures of speech. Now is the end upon thee. I will send mine anger upon thee, and will judge thee according to thy ways. And I will bring upon thee all thine abominations. So what goes around comes around. And mine eye shall not spare thee, neither will I have pity. So see, there's a point in the mercy of God that it has reached its limitation. And that's because God chooses to limit his mercy. All right? He said, I will not spare thee, neither will I have pity. But I will bring thy ways upon thee, and thine abominations shall be in the midst of thee, and ye shall know that I am Jehovah. So they're going to know this. It's brought on them because it's their, it's their actions that have produced this. So individual responsibility brings about results. Okay? It does. Thus saith the Lord Jehovah, an evil and only evil. Behold, it comes. This is so terrible. All right? He could say a horror, a real horror is coming. An end is come, the end is come. It awakens against thee, behold, it come. Now, what's the idea you get from that? You think it's going to end some things? Thy doom is come upon thee, O inhabitant of the land. The time is come, the day is near, a day of tumult, a day not of joyful shouting from the mountains. Now will I shortly pour out my wrath upon thee, and accomplish mine anger against thee, and will judge thee according to thy ways. And I will bring upon thee all thine abominations. And mine eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity. I will bring upon thee according to thy ways, and thine abomination shall be in the midst of thee, and ye shall know that I, Jehovah, do smite, or that God has struck. That God has struck. There is a terrible lack of understanding in our culture, society today, of the religious culture and society of today, that God will destroy, and that God will do it, and it will be so horrible that it will bring about God's purpose. Behold the day. Behold, it cometh. My goodness. Thy doom is gone forth. The rod has blossomed, pride hath budded. And so that's another way of saying, pride goeth, before destruction, and a haughty spirit before fall. It's another metaphor, it's what it is. Violence is risen up into a rod of wickedness. None of them shall remain, nor of their multitude, nor of their wealth. Neither shall there be enmity among them. The time is come, the day draweth near. Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller mourn. So here's that economic problem. For wrath is upon the multitude thereof. For the seller shall not return to that which is sold, although they yet be alive. For the vision is touching the whole multitude. None shall return, neither shall any strengthen himself in the iniquity of his life. So they cannot, all their security's gone. You see that? They have blown the trumpet, they've made ready, but no one goes to battle. There's the military problem. The military will not move, okay? They will not function like they should. For my wrath is upon all the multitude. The sword is on the outside, the pestilence and the famine on the inside. He that is in the field shall die with the sword, and he that's in the city, starvation and disease shall devour him. But those of them that escape and shall be on the mountains like doves of the valley, all of them moaning, every one in his iniquity. You know, that's one of the things that, it was McKenna. McKenna, it was you talking about that. McKenna has laid siege to the doves early in the morning in the trees outside her window. You know, that sound the doves make, you know, that moaning they make. And so she has gone forth with her pellet gun, you know, because the doves sit right outside the window on the bush and they do that, you know, that sound they make, and it's just quite loud. It's that moaning, mourning sound, why we call them mourning doves. Not, well, we could use it there because they're always up early, aren't they? But it's mourn, not mourning as in daybreak, see? So they're mourning doves, and McKenna has laid waste to the barrier of that sad song. You know, her pellet gun has wreaked havoc among the feathered flock. So here in the mountains, they are moaning. Oh no, what have I done? What have I done? All the hands shall be feeble, all the knees shall be weak as water. So there's no courage. You know, there's no courage. They also gird themselves with sackcloth, and horror shall cover them. The shame shall be upon their faces, baldness on their heads. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be as an unclean thing. You can't buy their way out of this. They can't buy their way out. Get rid of all this, you know, try to pay the guys coming with the sword. It's not going to work. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of Jehovah. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it hath been the stumbling block of their iniquity. Financial security is a stumbling block because it can lead a person away from God. I'm remembering the campaigns we used to go on years ago as a young man. When we would go on campaigns, we had no success in the upper middle class neighborhood. None. None. You could tell by looking at the house and the lawn and what was around it, whether or not you'd be received. You know, they didn't need this. They're too well-to-do, and they didn't need this. And the well-to-do here are in trouble, for their money is not a barrier around them anymore. As for the beauty of his ornament, he set it in majesty. But they have made images of their abomination, their detestable things therein. Therefore have I made it unto them as an unclean thing. You know, even the common jewelry and stuff like that they like to decorate themselves with, it has become an abomination to them. An unclean thing. I will give it into the hands of the strangers for a prey. It becomes bounty. It becomes loot, if you will. And to the wicked of the earth for spoil, and they shall profane it. My face will I turn away from them, and they shall profane my secret place, and robbers shall enter it and profane. They're going to tear the temple apart. They're going to go in there and get all of that beautiful decoration, all of that ornamental gold and silver, all of that beauty that makes a temple so dazzling inside. They're going to tear it all down, and they're going to get it. God is sent his avengers. Make the chain, for the land is full of bloody crimes, and the city is full of violence. Wherefore I'll bring the worst of the nations, and they shall possess their houses. I will also make the pride of the strong to cease, and their holy places shall be profaned. Now that's talking about their idolatry. destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. They can't make a treaty. They can't go out and compromise. I remember in the history of World War II, they tried to kill Hitler with a briefcase bomb so they could go on the Western Front and they could make a peace treaty with the Allies on the Western Front, and then Germany could turn and try to stop Russia, see? But Eisenhower said there will be no compromise. It is total and unconditional surrender. Because, you know, they had that conditional surrender in World War I, and that didn't work. They went home and they were all heroes, the Germans I'm talking about. So Eisenhower said, we're not doing this again. Total wipeout. And that's what you have here, the same thing. Now look what in verse 26. Mischief shall come upon mischief, rumor upon rumor. They shall seek a vision of the prophet, but the law shall perish from the priest, and the counsel from the elders. The king shall mourn, the prince shall be clothed with desolation, and the hands of the people shall be troubled. I will do unto them after the way, according to their deserts will I judge them, and they shall know that I am Jehovah. Man alive. This thing says that sin has its own rewards as a nation. This says that a nation that can get so far removed from righteousness that God will take that nation off the face of the earth as a nation. Now, the land will still be there, but the nation won't be there. You see what I'm saying? It's like scouring a skillet. You know, you clean the trash out of the skillet's still there, but it's been cleaned out. You know what I'm saying? It's been cleaned out. This is a terrible thing. And then chapter 8 is a continuation of it, and in the vision, Ezekiel is picked up, if you will, out of a body experience. Now he's going to go look at Jerusalem, okay? Now he's going to go look at Judea and look at it. The 6th year, 6th month, the 5th day of the month, as I said in my house, and the elders of Judah sat before me, that the hand of the Lord Jehovah fell upon me. Now every time he says Lord Jehovah, that is the Jehovah of the Old Testament. That is the highest language that can be used by man to describe Jehovah, okay? That's what the memorial covenant keeper, Jehovah. And then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire. Now this is Jesus, okay? You find him in the Revelation the same way. We've looked at him in the book of Daniel the same way. This is that expression of holiness found in God when he chooses to show an appearance of his power and his presence. From the appearance of his loins and downward fire. From his loins and upward as the appearance of brightness, as it were glowing metal. And he put forth a form of a hand, and took me by the lock of my head, grabbed him by the hair of the head. Wow. I had a 6th grade school teacher that she didn't use a paddle. She'd just come by your desk. We sat 2 in a desk, you know, right beside each other. And she'd come by and get you by the sideburn. Because by the 6th grade, you had sideburns. Remember that? Bob, did you ever get picked up out of your chair by your sideburn? You didn't? Yeah. Well, come up here. I'll demonstrate. You know. Now, he gets picked up by the hair of his head. Okay? And the Spirit lifted me up between earth and heaven and brought me into visions of God to Jerusalem. So his body is still in captivity, but he's been taken in the Spirit to the door of the gate of the inner court that looked toward the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoked to jealousy. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, according to appearance I saw in the plain. Now, what this is, the image of jealousy in 2 Kings 21 and verse 7, this is Azerah. This is that woman counterpart to Baal, the god of fertility. This is that many-breasted image of fertility, And it was Manasseh, King Manasseh, that set this up. Okay? That set this up. And so it's called in Ezekiel the God that provokes jealousy. So remember the 10 Commandments. I am a jealous God. I'll have no other gods before me. Well, King Manasseh set this thing right in the way going up the temple steps. And it is Asheroth or Asheroth. It depends on the spelling. This is the god of fertility. And you see in the like on the Discovery Channel or you see in some of the encyclopedias that this is a feminine type of engraved carving, multi-breasted woman figure. And this was incredibly popular in Judea. Incredibly. This was probably the first line idolatry, Baal and his counterpart. This is the first line of worship here. This is, if you will, the sexual revolution is what this is. It was very sexual. Everything about the worship of Baal and about this female counterpart had to do with expressions of sex. Everything about it. Everything about it. So that's what is set up in front as you go up to worship God. This is the first thing you encounter. Okay? This would be what would be like that today? Well, I better not get into that. And then he said, Son of man, lift up thine eyes unto the way north. So I lifted up my eyes toward the north, and behold, northward of the gate north of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. And he said unto me, Seest thou what they do? Even the great abomination that the house of Israel do commit here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary? But thou shalt again see yet another great abomination. He brought me to the door of the court, and when I looked, and behold, a hole in the wall, and he said to me, Dig now in the wall. Most scholars that I read after said the digging here is a search for truth. It's a euphemism for look at the truth of this. Dig out the truth. And he said, Go in and see the wicked abominations they do. So I went in, and behold, every form of creeping thing and abominable beast, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall about. And there stood before them 70 men of the elders of the house of Israel. That's the Sanhedrin. That's the 70 counselors that Moses appointed in the wilderness to help him lead Israel. They've all gone. The wisdom of Israel has gone into idolatry. Remember, Paul said they have forsaken God and have worshiped bugs and creeping things of that nature. What did they learn from Egypt? What did they worship in Egypt? Worshipped a bull, and they said it, huh? Yeah, the scarab. Is that the way to say it? Scarab? It's a beetle. Yeah, it's a beetle that's kind of an emerald color, if you will. It's kind of a greenish, shiny color. They worship that creeping bug. And I remember, I think of that. Sometimes you come down to the post office, and we've had grasshoppers all over the streets, and we've had them black bugs. Remember one year we had them black beetles everywhere? And every time I'd crunch one of them, I'd think of that's the god of Egypt, But, have one less, yeah. So what have they done? They've incorporated Apis, as Darla said. Apis is the bull, They've incorporated scarab, the beetle. They've incorporated the sun god, Tammuz, the Astarte, the worship of the burst of the sun, the Sunday morning, Easter sunrise services, as idolatry as you can get. The burst of the sun, Astarte, worship of the sun god. So that's still with us today. Have you ever heard something like this? Just go to the church of your choice. Huh? Here's the church of their choice, isn't it? Here's just, it doesn't make any difference. We all worship. Huh? Doesn't make any difference as long as we all worship and we're sincere and, and the Greek for that's baloney. Look at it. They're all sincere. And what are they doing? They brought God's judgment, and he said, go and see the wicked abominations. And I saw everything creeping, he said, on the wall. And there are the elders of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them stood Jazaznah, the son of Shaphan. Now, Shaphan was the one that helped good King Josiah restore the law. Yeah, he was the scribe that helped Josiah restore the teaching of the law. This is his son. Okay? I guess every family has a black sheep, don't they? But this is the son of the man that helped Josiah restore, as best Josiah could before he was killed, the teaching of the law. It's the son of that man. All right? So, then he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the elders of the house of Israel do in the dark, every man in his chambers of imagery? For they say, Jehovah seeth not, Jehovah hath forsaken the land. He saith unto me, Thou shalt see yet again other great abomination. He brought me to the door of the gate of Jehovah's house. Here's the temple. And behold, there sat the women weeping for Tammuz. Okay? That's that Astarte. That's that sunburst god. That's that they all face the east, and when the sun burst that moment on the horizon, they all bow down. There's that sunrise service right there. They all bow down. It was incorporated later into the Catholic Church, and now you find it in some of the trappings of the denominational world today. Okay? And then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Thou shalt again see yet another abomination. And he brought me into the court of Jehovah's house. Behold, the door of the temple of Jehovah, between the porch and the altar, were 25 men with their backs toward the temple of Jehovah, their faces toward the east. What are they worshiping? Their back is toward the temple of God. So they've turned their back on God. And they're worshiping the sun toward the east. Now, who are these people? Say it again, darling. God's chosen people. Doesn't make any difference what you believe as long as you're sincere, right? Doesn't matter where you worship as long as we're all worshiping the same God, right? People that advertise that kind of baloney have never read the Old Testament. They've never read the Old Testament. They jump on preachers, Oh, you old mean preacher. You think everybody's going to hell but you. No, I don't. I don't think that. And I pray that never be true, because I've been removed from the position of God, so that's not my call. That's not my call. And, but what I do believe is that we have to be a worshiper of God, the one and true God. And Jesus is the pathway to that God. For I am the way, the truth, and the light, and no man cometh unto the Father except by me. Yes, that's what we teach. And so what do you see here? Raise your hand if you like this. I don't even like studying it. I really don't. I don't like studying it. It's like having a big old zit on your face as a teenager, and you don't even like looking in the mirror, do you? You don't like looking in the mirror. Oh, he said, have you seen this, verse 17? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah? They commit the abominations they commit here. Is it a light thing? Where is Jehovah's house in geographic location? Where's it at? Judea. Where's Jerusalem? In Judea. Where's the temple? Inside the city of Jerusalem. You think this is a light thing that in the capital city of God's people, this is what's going on? That's why Jeremiah said, run to and fro in the streets of Jerusalem, find me one man. Just one. Because it is so corrupt. Let's finish the chapter. For they have filled the land with violence, and have turned again to provoke me to anger. And lo, they put the branch to their nose. There's another. You know, they just stink. They just stink. Therefore, there's a word in the Bible. I've told my men's class, 2 words are key in the Bible, wherefore and therefore. Therefore, it's because of what's been going on, will I deal in wrath, mine eye shall not spare, neither shall I have pity. And though they cry in mine ears with a loud voice, yet I will not hear them. There comes a time when you cry and plead for God, and he will not hear, because the abomination is so great that he has no pity. And the only way to do is to start off again with a clean slate. And he will clean the slate. Yeah. James, you remember when you went to school, you had that slate and that chalk, was it? Yeah, you remember that, James? Yeah. James, I really don't think you were old enough to have a slate. So anyway, they see, James can take a joke. Say, anyway, they cleaned the slate. You know, you'd write on it, and then you'd clean it off, and it'd start fresh to write a new problem. See, and that's the idea here. Any questions or comments? I hope your comments are better than mine. I who do not enjoy this, believe me. Nathan, do you enjoy it? Oh. I want to know, but I'm saying it's just. Did the idol worship that they were practicing come from the nations that were around them? Mm-hmm. And some of it from Egypt. They, in their history. That's exactly right. They were told not to learn to do like the abominations of the nations round about them. That's Deuteronomy 18 and verse 9. And what they did was that it slowly creeped in, just like the church. The church is set in the culture to teach the culture. When the culture leaks into the church, what do you have? Abomination. Yeah. Just because it's real popular outside. We're in a big war again. How many times? This is the 3rd time in the history of the Restoration Movement that we're fighting instrumental music again. It seems to come with every other generation. We're fighting instrument. We've lost in a lot of the big congregations have lost. They have so much money invested in plant, they call them, facilities, $3 or $4 or $5 million that they have to have every nickel they can get. So in order to accommodate the financial picture, they go ahead and say, we'll have a service that's contemporary, and then we'll have a service that's traditional. And money has brought them to this point, okay? Money has brought the elders and leaders. Remember who he saw in this group? The 70 elders of Israel. What are they doing? In the dark, he said. They go to their imagery in the dark. So when leadership turns its face away from God, then the culture creeps into the church. The culture keeps into the church. That's one generation. Darla, good point. I missed that. Thank you very much. We're just one generation from apostasy. And this was the man's son. Thank you very much, Darla. I missed that. I appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? Well, this is the immediate destruction, and some scholars believe it's a 2-pronged thing. But this is the immediate destruction upon that Nebuchadnezzar is going to bring. You know, they carried off. Huh? Yeah, this is the same thing, yes. Because he calls the rod of mine anger staff, and whose indignation is in my hand, and that applies